Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, we review Speedway Motors Mustang II independent suspension front end kit for street rods and hot rods. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is not a sponsored video. I bought this whole kit with my own hard-earned money in the spring of this year, 2021, and I bought it while it was on sale. So I have 2 pages worth of parts here, and I paid $1,617.97 was the total. There you go. I don't want to show my information, but there you go. So, what we're going to do is unbox everything and go over all the parts that you get in this kit and what our initial impressions are of them. So this is going to be the front suspension for the 48 Ford F1 that we revealed to you in the last episode. Also, it's going to be an interesting comparison of the Crown Vic front end that we're doing on the 69 project truck versus an aftermarket Mustang II suspension setup. So obviously it's more money, but it's definitely a budget setup. So this box here is going to be the coil towers, both coil spring towers, and the Crossmember, and these are the only parts that are going to be really specific to your build. That's the other coil tower. You don't really need to see that, and this is also the only box that comes with instructions, because this will fit your individual frame for whatever vehicle that you're building. The rest of the parts are all kind of universal, and they also depend on what you're ordering it as. Most of them are kind of interchangeable, universal, depending on what kind of vehicle you're going to put them on. So it does come with instructions on how to mount the crossmember on the frame, and this is a weld-in kit. But it supposedly is already notched correctly here to fit the spacing of the frame. Other notable contenders are like Heights, which is H-E-I-D-T-S. Top-notch stuff from everything I've heard, but it's also very expensive. I have heard this kit compared as kind of a budget Heights kit. Another contender that a lot of people are going with out there, they even sell it on Summit Racing, is the Helix kits. I've never laid hands on one myself, and I've never had one, but I will say I have not heard good things about those, mostly from other YouTubers. I've actually seen quite a few videos on people that have had a lot of failures with that kit, and just generally talked about it just being junk and low quality garbage. Again, not my words, just what I've heard. This kit, on the other hand, is actually less money than the Helix kit. And everything I can see, it looks like it's really nice quality. So here's our weld-in crossmember and our coil spring buckets. These parts mount to the frame. Everything else essentially mounts off of these lower control arms here. Upper control arms mount to these guys right here. And the rack, as you can see, mounts to the front there, kind of like a Mustang or Mustang II. Well, that is what the suspension is robbed from. I think for like 1,600 bucks, this kit is a lot of bang for your buck. So this looks like, I believe it's quarter inch thick. The welds here are all ground. The welds where these gussets are and the tubes and everything look real nice. Just looks like it's enclosed on the bottom. I mean, for what it is, it really looks like a quality unit. This stuff has all been sitting in my garage for over the last 6 or 7 months. None of it has rusted at all whatsoever. You can see the bolt holes for the T-bolts for the control arms where they're slotted to adjust caster to camber. Caster. And so this will mount on the frame there. This mounts on the top part of the frame, kind of like so. And then everything kind of bolts off of that. So here's the instructions that tell you how to mount it to your specific frame that you have. So one thing I'm going to check is the stock wheels in the front fenders are not centered. They need to come, I think it's forward. So we're going to look and see if this kit actually already moves it forward, because they're wanting you to mount the cross member wherever your stock center line was. So I don't know if the control arms are kind of offset to kick it forward. If not, I am probably going to go ahead and move it forward, because I want the front wheels to be nice and symmetrical in the fender wells. Because when you lower a truck and that's off center, then it looks real bad. Okay, here are the tubular control arms, and these are rack bushings here. These are rack bushings here. Not sure why they're in that box. I've already looked at this stuff, so it might have all been kind of shuffled around. So here is what the tubular control arms look like. And they come with these spacers on here. This is for, I believe, if you bought the different crossmember that does not have the spacers welded. So I don't think I'm using these. You can see these welds here could be a little better. They look like just MIG welds. They kind of ground down, but it's got a bolt for the shock, pocket for the coil spring. It's got a tab for a sway bar already installed. New ball joint with a spacer. It is a screw-in ball joint, it looks like a GM style maybe. And let's see, which way is the front? That's got to be the front because the sway bar. Looking at this, it does look like that is kicked forward about probably an inch or two. And all the, the welds aren't the greatest, but the hardware and the tubing and everything all looks real beefy. So if you go center, it's about 11 inches, so we'll say 5.5. So center would be right about there, and the center of the ball joint is about 1.75 inches ahead of that, it looks like. So I think that is going to go ahead and move it, keeping the cross member in the same place. I think the front suspension is actually going to be moved forward. So other one looks just like it. Don't really need to see that. Oh yeah. The boxes looked pretty haggard for sure when the stuff got here, but none of the stuff was actually hurt, so I I mean, the pack job definitely could have been better, but nothing got hurt, so I guess I'm complaining just to complain. Okay, so here we have hardware kit, front hardware kit. Looks like bearing dust caps, brake hoses, brake hardware, possibly, nope, that says rubber hose, clips for the brake lines. So looks like all the brake hardware, hoses, washers, dust caps. Another thing I really liked about this kit is how complete it is. I mean, they give you pretty much everything they can. Okay. I believe these are going to be the calipers. Nope, these are the spindles. Right and left, we'll just open one of them. I guess you don't really need to see both of them. So it looks like a cast steel spindle, and I'd have to look, but I believe you can get, take a look at all the machine surfaces there. I think you can get basically straight Mustang II spindles, which are the regular height, or 2-inch drop spindles. I believe I went with the regular height. You can see L there for left. All the machining looks really nice, and again, they're beefy. Got in this box adapters for the tie rods, because this will have a wider track width, I believe. I think these are going to be brake pads. Even come with brake pads, which I believe these are like mid-90s Chevy pickup stuff. We'll see when we get to the calipers. I'll show you. 11-inch Mustang II brackets. So these are the caliper brackets and hardware, which they are, again, like a cast steel. They look plenty beef. The only downside I would say is they're kind of heavy, but okay, racing springs. True Coil. So these have got to be our coil springs. And what did I order? 400. So I believe these are 400-pound coil springs. So the neat thing is you can call Speedway also and kind of switch things up, because I think the original kit called for 600-pound springs, and I kind of did a little research and talked to the tech line guys at Speedway. Yeah, these are, you can see the part number there ends with a 400, so it should be a 400-pound coil spring. Anyway, I said, hey, you know, I kind of been doing my research. I'm gonna run an aluminum headed small block in this truck. Oops, I might have just given too much away. Oh well. And it's a little 48 Ford pickup, so it's not real heavy. I think 600 is gonna be too tough, and I think it's gonna ride real rough. So kind of discussed it and decided 400-pound springs would be the best for my build. It's really a modular kind of kit. You can switch things up as you need. So these are gonna be upper control arms, real similar to the lowers, beefy, decent welds. come with everything you need. You can see they're like knurled here to bite into that bracket, because again, that'll be your caster camber adjustment. Just like on a GM, you'll rotate it like this or in and out. Again, very nice quality for the money anyway. I really don't think you'll do better unless you're gonna spend the big bucks and get like a Heights kit. So this is 10 inches apart, and the top ball joint kind of looks like it's offset about a 1/2 inch. That's just a half-ass redneck measurement anyway. What else do we have? Oh, instructions. Some instructions for the tubular control arms. Got the rotors, and they are a 11-inch Mustang II rotor. It says for 74 to 80 Ford, so I think they must have been on like possibly Mustang IIs, but I don't think they had them that big. I think they're like, I think they're like a Granada. I think I read where they're like a Granada rotor or something like that. So once again, you know, probably Chinese, but they look pretty dang good. Yeah, as good as anything you get from the art store these days. And that's just the other rotor in there. Box. Coil spring isolator. Like I said, one of the things I really like about the kit is you get everything pretty much. Big bolts. So bolts for the manual rack. Here are the cute little wheel bearings. So wheel bearings, inner and outer, and wheel seals. And it's not in here, but I know they give you the hardware for it too. Oh, so this looks like probably some control arm hardware. Spindle nuts, and oh, okay. So there's the spindle nuts and washers for those wheel bearings. These are the T-bolts for the upper control arms. Tie rod nuts. Bunch of washers. And this stuff, it all looks like really nice grade 5, like zinc plated stuff. There's some spacers for the rack. More hardware. Those power rack bolts. I guess we got both. That might be me. Tie rod. That could be me because I did originally order a power rack and decided to not do a power rack. Other tie rod. Because at one point I was thinking about going with a flathead motor in this truck, which flathead motors do not have power steering pumps or any of that stuff. So, but I am going with a small block. But I have read that with these kind of kits and those little light pickups, they can be really over assisted. So I'm going to keep it simple and go with manual steering. Kind of a manual steering guy. Anyway, the old 69 back there is going to have manual steering. So it's a new caliper, and they are Speedway calipers. And these are the ones that I was saying look to me like a 90s Chevy pickup. They have that same kind of sliding bolt mounting design. Both calipers. finally, we got shocks. We got front shocks. Which I don't think I even opened these yet. Monroe-Matic, which are a decent shock. You know, not the best, but not the worst either, which is kind of the theme. Okay, the final item here is going to be our manual rack, which has, strangely enough, some nuts already in there. That's what she said. So here is our brand new Mustang II manual rack. Now this one's brand new. The power units are actually a Thunderbird rack, and I think they're remanufactured or rebuilt. It actually is the same rack that my 88 Thunderbird takes, the power steering rack. This is the manual rack. It looks like a brand new unit. I don't think it's rebuilt. And then there's adapters that go on the ends to make the tie rods a little bit longer to work for this particular kit. So there you go. I believe that's the end of the parts. That's basically the unboxing and my initial impressions of how everything looks. From what I've seen in some other videos, it definitely looks better than the Helix kit, which actually costs more than this. I believe they are like $2,200 for the whole kit, something like that. This was actually a little less than $1,600. It was probably more like $1,300 because I ended up returning the power rack for a manual rack. Other contenders of note are, like I said, there's the Helix kit, there's this Speedway kit, there is total cost involved, which I looked at really hard before I ordered this kit and was real close to pulling the trigger on it. The downsides to that was I think it wasn't as complete. Price was definitely higher. There's also heights. That's HEIDTS, and that's also, I think, Speedway sells those. Initial impressions are, I really like how complete the kit is. I really like the cost for what you get. It feels like it's really good value for money. Obviously, when you're looking at $1,600 or $1,300, that's a far cry from the Crown Vic setup, which I'm gonna have in here for a couple $100 complete. But a couple reasons that I didn't do the Crown Vic for the 48. For one, I want to give you guys a comparison to kind of show you what you think if you're going to do the low buck Crown Vic thing versus buying a kit that's made to go into your truck. The other reason I didn't do that is the 48 pickup is a lot smaller than the 69, and I've seen people do the Crown Vic kit on those and the tires end up sticking out way too far. Even with a really positive offset newer style wheel, it doesn't look good and they stick out too far. Guys end up narrowing the cross members and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and getting narrowed control arms. It's like, by the time you're gonna do all that, why don't you just get a kit like this? Because the whole point of the Crown Vic is that it just drops in and it's already fits. You don't have to modify stuff that much. They do fit these trucks, not so much the older trucks. So that's the method to my madness there. I hope you like this review and I hope you like what you see. Drop a comment below, give us a like, share, and a subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.